friend. Welcome to Watches Tonight. I'm your host, Tim Mosso, and this is the 1916 Company. We've got Sid on the switcher tonight, you in the box. I can see Edward Ledden of Sweden is already there. Joseph, welcome. Tonight, I discuss the resurgence of dress watches. We chat live, and I share your viewer wrist chats tonight on Watches Tonight. While we're gearing up, take a look at some of my favorite recent selections from our catalog, things that are not necessarily on our website, but on Tim_Mosso on Instagram, you can see my favorite picks, everything from Konstantin Chaikin to the AP Millenary Star Wheel to a full skeleton Vacheron Traditionel to the two watches that are actually on the table tonight. So check out Tim_Mosso on Instagram, and you will be able to daisy chain my 1-minute reviews. You can literally binge watch my Instagram. Join me there. It's the official after party to Watches Tonight. Let's see who's in the box now. Moto Gunner from Athens, Georgia. Soma R. Arto Charles from New York City. James Carrion, who is a creator and watch enthusiast in his own right. We got Rob Filmer from Chicago, Jim Millett of the UK, Michael Everywhere, specifically from Manhattan. No, Rick on Watches, Rich Mitch, Mateo C. We got a friend from Hamburg, Mr. Toe Watch, welcome. David Remus from DC, America's capital. We got Sutats, we got THX, we got Abdul from Germany. We got friends from Michigan and Wales, John. We've got Pierre from Montreal, Junior Johnson, Kevin from Buffalo, and Ron H. getting up early with us in Sydney. And for that matter, so is B&K, who's waking up in Hong Kong. All right, guys, jumping straight into tonight, let's talk about a few yours on mine. I asked you answered, here it is, viewer wrist shots. Starting with Jeff S., who opens our account, as he often does, with a platinum enamel dial Omega limited edition world time watch. That was from last week's show. And his Mercedes-Benz S63 AMG, looking good. Jeff, he follows up with a watch that was actually on my Instagram, though not the same one, not the same version, but the Konstantin Chaikin Baron's Joker Ace of Spades. This one blackened and red, very neat. Neil B. takes no prisoners with a bold new strap on his Patek Philippe 5230 world time. We got James L., who eats dinner at the Polo Bar with a Breguet Tradition 7027 and good taste on both counts. Jonathan B. and his Vacheron Constantin American 1921 roll in the Bentley W12 Speed. I'm jealous on both counts. We've got Eddie P., who hikes in Joshua Tree National Park with his AP Royal Oak Jumbo 16202 ST, and by the way, that is a lovely photo, Eddie. Dr. Ben accepts only the best with Breguet Type 20 Transatlantique and Bentley Bentayga SUV. We got a thing going on with crew-built Bentleys tonight, guys. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your watches on this box, or new school, the1916company.com to see your passion in this fashion. What else going on here? We got Slow Boy Fuel Pump joining in, Joe Mama Afternoon where he is, Ristocratic from Asheville, North Carolina, and James loves that Omega, you and me both. We got Andrew K., who's psyched to be here. Andrew, I'm psyched to have you. Welcome. And Jeff S. asking, you know his is a W12? He told me it was a W12, so no, I don't. I'm taking it on blind faith. And we got Julio B. joining in along with Dr. Stu, who's watching from New York City, and Summers 1818. Welcome, guys. It's so good to have you with me. So, 2025, dress watches aren't frumpy anymore. It's now official. You don't have to be Mr. Magoo or Elmer Fudd millionaire to wear a high-end luxury dress watch. You don't need to be some sort of old money supervillain like the Penguin. This is all about democratizing luxury, not in the sense that it's more affordable, no, that never happens, but in the sense that you can now wear a dress watch almost anywhere, anytime. There was a time before the 1980s when dress watches, that is elegant watches designed to complement formal attire, were the rule and not the exception. It wasn't until the 80s and 90s rise of Rolex as the reference point for luxury that buyers began to associate tool-style watches with daily dress and routines. Rolex became an office watch. It became something you wore at a wedding or with a tuxedo. But dress watches have changed since the 1990s. Gerald Genta, to say nothing of the 1980s. Patek Philippe, 3919. First, dress watches are a lot more versatile than in the past. Second, collectors no longer feel an obligation to match attire to watches, which opens up more opportunities to use our dress watches. Finally, the rise of elite independent brands has led to a resurgence of interest in dress models, as well as pushing the boundary of what can be considered a dress watch. It's more than you think. First, let's consider how dress watches themselves have changed, even from very traditional brands. And we probably need some kind of definition of the term itself first. So before we jump and we look at what the Holy Trinity are doing with dress watches these days, let's consider a dress watch to be a timepiece that is designed primarily for aesthetics, refinement, and complementary sartorial purposes. This is in contrast to a sports watch, for example, that's designed primarily for a specific utilitarian purpose or for levels of durability that exceeds the requirements of a conventional desk job or an office job. So that's a sports watch, and then we've defined what a dress watch is going to be. Designed primarily for aesthetics, refinement, and sartorial complementary purposes. So, oddly, the 1980s and the 90s witnessed the simultaneous rise of SUVs, mountain bikes, aggressive basketball sneakers, and sports watches as the default for people who were not forest rangers, elite athletes, or professional divers. Too much, it seemed, was never enough back then. But today, a dress watch can be practical, imposing, and versatile enough to satisfy that urge for more, while still retaining the root identity of something that is elegant, something that is welcome in polite company. Let's take a quick look, because today a dress watch can be practical, sizable, have presence, and versatile enough to lure buyers away from traditional sports watches. So let's take a look first at Patek Philippe and the Calatrava. This was actually described as a Calatrava Pilot when it first came out, although Patek has been inconsistent since then. But this is the 5226G. It came out in 2022. This watch is loomed, and very seriously loomed. Really, how many 1980s Patek dress watches packed this much loom? I think it's safe to say just about zero. Now this is white gold, which means it's a bit more versatile and wearable than rose gold or yellow. This could, to the casual onlooker, look like it's made of steel. It's automatic, which is always helpful on everyday carry. It's 40 millimeters, which is pretty sizable for a dress watch even today, and has a textured charcoal dial that is far more punchy, robust, and gritty than, say, a wan opaline or sunburst treatment. And in yet a new wrinkle, Patek announced last year that 30 meters on this watch in terms of water resistance is now a real 30 meters. So in theory, this watch, which was a very versatile dress watch, even starts to dip a toe, pun intended, into the waters of sports watch fare. So put it on a rubber strap, and who's to say? Patek seems to be willing to stand by true 30-meter water resistance. But with a hobnail case, angular lugs, gold composition, and syringe-style hands, it's still a dress watch. $41,710, so for a lot of people, that's going to be their one indulgence. And when you're spending that kind of money on a one and only, you want to know you can wear it just about anywhere. And for a lot of guys who are buying this instead of like a second car, it's like a multi-year savings project. Let's not forget, there's a lot of normal guys buying luxury watches, just as there are a lot of normal middle-class people buying luxury cars. Sometimes it's a big goal and you want to get the most for your money. And here you do, a dress watch, but not just a dress watch. Jumping into the box, we got Decibels saying probably my favorite Patek. We've got Omar saying I love the 5326 more, honestly. Well, that's fine. It's a bit bigger, it's a bit more complicated, but it's very similar in style. We got Joe R saying, Tim, is it too much to ask for both? I want a dressy watch that isn't going to get damaged a little bit from the water or the pool. Well, hey, maybe we've got it. Like Patek said last year, a true 30 meters. And I will say anecdotally, the way our watchmakers and watch refinishers test watches, I do think that on a modern watch, a true 30 meters might be a little bit more than it's meant traditionally. We got Caliber YQG in the box, and Ron H saying, I love to wear a dress watch paired with dress, shorts, and a t-shirt. So is that like a t-shirt and polo shorts? Because that sounds like it's going to work. And by the way, guys, we're going to talk about stuff like that pretty soon. We're at 194 concurrent viewers. Like, subscribe, and please stay with me. Let's see if we can get up to 400 concurrent viewers. That would make my week and probably ensure this is a pretty well-viewed show. All right, Geezer, Tim, will the 15202 be more collectible than the 16202? Not all of them. Special editions, rare variants, and the first generation that was made made from 2000 to 2012 will be more collectible. Post 2012, particularly the three-piece case, going to be much less collectible because there's more of them and the three-piece case is less desirable. BNS saying, yeah, what are dress shorts? You got me. Again, I'm thinking like board shorts, some sort of, shorts that are khaki with pockets, things like that. Cargo pants, maybe they call them. What else is going on? Cargo shorts. Edward saying, I watched some of the latest Escapement show stream, Abdul. I really enjoyed it. Abdul's a very cool guy. PhD of engineering. He's working out of Germany these days. He's always got a great social media presence. And then we have... what else is going on? James saying, John Atchison, Omega makes a fantastic one-watch collection, and I could not agree more. Jeff S. saying, I find the Grand Seiko dress watches to be the most versatile, especially since many of their dressy watches are 100 meters. That's very useful. We got Vincent S. saying, a little late, but glad to be here. All those great enthusiasts around the world. Welcome, guys. I appreciate that. We're up over 200 concurrent. You're making my day already. Let's get that up to 300. So, this might be my favorite watch in the show tonight, but Audemars Piguet Code 1159 Star Wheel. This also came out in 2022. The AP I want most, and anything but subtle, yet clearly not a sports watch because the codes simply aren't that. They're thin, they're fine, they're beautifully detailed, they're mostly not highly water resistant. But I will say this, at 41 millimeters in diameter and 50 millimeters lug to lug, it's larger than some sports watches, including some Royal Oaks. And look at the 1991 Star Wheel to realize how dramatically this AP dress watch family has changed. Now, I love that just fine. It works because it's small, it's vintage, and it's classical. It was also a milestone piece, but the current Star Wheel is probably more my style. We got white gold. We've got an aventurine dial below the aluminum discs. We've got a ceramic mid-case, which looks fantastic against the white gold bezel and case back. We've got AP's own sports watch-derived caliber 4310 automatic that you'll find in other forms inside Royal Oaks and offshores, so you know mechanically it is robust. We also have a ceramic-wrapped crown that looks awesome. The $59,600 Audemars is an ideal showcase for the way that dress watches have evolved to compete in a market that favors the size and image of sports watches, while still retaining the dress watch DNA. This is still elegant. It's got a handsome aspect ratio. It doesn't look like a tuna can on your wrist, and there's nothing coarse or unrefined when you get it in the hand. You marvel at how thin the bezel is, how beautifully beveled and evacuated the lugs are, and all the little nuances like the dihedral crystal that you can't see even in this photo. The code is a lot better than you think it is, and for me, this is the ultimate code. It's also an example of how good AP's product development continues to be, despite mixed reviews for the retail experience. AP, I'm not giving up on you. Jumping into the box, we have Cull Obsidian saying, I would love a Star Wheel. Rick on Watches agrees, love that Star Wheel. We got Miroslav saying, I lust after the OG Star Wheel. There are some OG Star Wheels in platinum, and I really lust after those, especially with the engraved dials. We have James agreeing with Jeff about Grand Seiko dress watches being versatile, saying, so true, they are solid on bracelets, plus water resistance, and so fun to put on straps, especially since most Grand Seikos still have strap tool holes. We got THX saying, love the Star Wheel aventurine dial, and I am on board with you. Tom H saying that vintage yellow gold Star Wheel is beautiful, and you're not wrong. We got Lloyd Kerr joining in. Hey Tim, made it from Maryland. Thanks for joining me on the mid-Atlantic of the US. We're up in Philadelphia here. We got a question. What do you think of the Kadoka 2? A couple of different versions of it now. I like it, but that is a crowded space, that sub $10,000 indie brand. Be sure to take a look at Torsti Lina, Felipe Pikulik. Garrick is still selling its legacy calibers, and actually this is a good time, and by legacy calibers I mean stuff like the S6. They're phasing those out for the high horology watches. They'll be keeping the S7 around, so check that out too. But I just got sent these prototypes by Armand Biard of Sartori Biard. Now you guys know I worked with Armand on my Facebook group watch, the SB04 Tim Mosso. None of the money went to me, it all went to the creator. That's the way my Facebook group watches work. I design them, they make them, they pocket the dough. Well, Armand has a new one. This is the Evolution, and again, I have no financial interest in the brand, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of showcase how the watches have changed, because they've changed like dress watches generally. Minus 30 meters. These are now screw-down crown 100 meters, loomed automatic and steel, and yet 39.5 millimeters elegant at about 11 millimeters thick. And look at this heart. Well, we've got a tantalum engraved center dial. Thanks, Sid. I know you're doing what you can with that camera. I appreciate it. And then we've got a platinum chapter ring underneath a sapphire chapter ring that sits on top like a cap, and a heart of ruby center dial that's actually made of ruby boulder. So on this dial, we've got metal elements, sapphire elements, we have brushed platinum underneath, and then a heart of ruby center, whereas here we've got all that stuff, plus we've got the hand-engraved tantalum center, and these watches are not big. I measure them 44.6 lug to lug, but again, 100 meters, fully loomed, automatic, and steel. Aside from the fact that they're elegant, these could be sports watches, but this is what a dress watch can be today. This one is general production. This one is 150 pieces, and I got to tell you, this one is my favorite by far because first of all, I love color on my watch. Second, when you get close, you can see the grain of the original rock, which is really cool. It's from a Tanzanian ruby boulder, and the lapidary work to make it a dial is done in Germany. Super cool French-made watches. I am going to tell Armand, though, that I think that this one needs a little bit more color. The strap is great from Deluxe, but I really feel like we need a little bit of rose gold, or maybe some blue or some yellow, something to liven up this dial. It's just a little bit austere. That's one of the reasons why I like this one better. Mechanically, they have the same movement as mine, but again, mine is 30 meters and not loomed. The dress watch is evolving before our eyes. This is a really cool watch. And again, we were talking about how Garrick and Lina and Pikulik and Kudoka are all reasonably priced indies. This is like 4,700 euro. So a real French-made watch and a cool creator. Armand is a great guy to know. He's super tall. You might not recognize him when you see him in person for the first time. I didn't at Dubai Watch Week, but super friendly. If you want a connection to your watch designer, something like this is the way to go. You don't have to pay FP Journe or Debitoon money. Though, I should mention, Debitoon is the house brand here. James saying, I love Armand's work, was definitely looking at these. John D saying, calling the Code 1159 a dress watch is like calling a Ford F-150 a luxury sedan just because it has 4 seats in leather and legroom. I would say that calling the Code 1159 a dress watch is like calling a... I would say it's like calling a... How to compare it? It's not like the F-150 because there's a much cheaper version of the F-150. I think it would be like calling a Maybach, like GL class, a luxury car. Because you can't really tell, is it a luxury SUV or is it a car? It's based on a car chassis, but it has an SUV body. But there's no doubt that the Code 1159 through and through is luxury. Whereas with an F-150 that's been optioned up to $100,000, at heart, it's a work truck that's been turned into a luxury vehicle. Whereas when you've got something like a super luxury crossover, you don't know whether to rightly call it a truck or a car. And I think the Maybach version of the GL class is a better example, because every version of the GL is luxury. It's just luxury or super high luxury. What else is going on? We got 70 grade said, one of the best dress watches I've seen is the Tudor 1926 with the diamond hour markers. And then right here we have a question, would you pick Kudoka 2 or Pikulik moon phase? I'd probably go with the Kudoka 2. In the end, it's a little bit more wearable for me. And then we have comment, Rolex needs to bring back the Oyster Thin and give it a 150 meter water resistance rating. Guys, we're almost at 300 concurrent viewers. Let's keep this going. Also, let me know which one you like better, Heart of Ruby or the engraved tantalum dial. I'm a partisan of the Heart of Ruby here. Okay, we're not done with the Trinity because the most traditional is the one that literally has a line in its collection called Traditionel, Vacheron Constantin. And if any one of the Swiss Holy Trinity were to remain hidebound by tradition, it would be these guys. Yet here's the triple calendar from the Traditionel collection, and it's incredibly modern. Forward-looking, it is a large, beefy 41mm white gold case. It's got a wild open dial with layered sapphires, including the calendar discs, nickel anthracite movement coating for a cool grayscale scale aesthetic and a meaty wrist presence, this is one that will rival any sports watch for appearance and stance on the wrist. This triple calendar isn't something you'd leave in the safe for the 2 or 3 times a year you attend a wedding or the opera. There's a versatility here that makes it both fine and usable, and you're going to be trying to find reasons not to wear this watch. You're not going to have many. Vacheron also shows that the core appeal of mechanical watches, the machine within, can be expressed externally more easily in a dress watch than in some sort of thick, highly water-resistant pilot dive or engineer's model. You can really bring the movement out to the front on a clear dial in a way you can't do with a soft iron-cased Milgauss or Journe, for example. And like that Audemars we saw, the triple calendar appeals by turning the dial into the case back, which is what we really want, to see the best part without taking our watch off every time we look at it. And I'm going to say, other than rare skeleton models, this is something almost no one did on traditional dress watches back in the 80s and 90s. At $53,000, it costs as much as 2 overseas and then some, but it has wrist presence to truly rival the Vacheron Constantin sports watch. I feel like this is something I'd probably enjoy more than an overseas. And yes, there are calendar overseas models that cost much, much more, and so the traditionel triple calendar feels much more competitive on a price basis when viewed that way. Jumping into the box, we have Barry saying, Vacheron got it going on, you're not wrong. THX saying, Vacheron just does it better. And then we've got Truman Burbank saying, why do they have to jump on the skeletonization bandwagon? It looks like an Hublot now. I'm gonna disagree with you. No, it doesn't. It doesn't look anything like a classic fusion era fusion. And it's not skeletonized. A skeletonized dial is one that's been cut away. That's an open dial. It hasn't been evacuated. It was open from the beginning of the design. It's not as though they had a dial and then they cut it away and then it became a skeleton. What else going on? Doc Mick in Florida saying, buy it in gold. And John Atchison saying, Rolex 18135 is a wonderful watch. Yes, if you are into your day-dates, that is a very cool watch. Anthony Rice, I was thinking Omega Dark Side of the Moon right here. That's definitely a sports watch, though. That's not a dress watch. And then we have Jeff S. saying, Corono Tokyo is great. Jeff, definitely. If you want a Japanese watch that's a smaller brand, designed by a true master and not as expensive, Corono is the way to go. Even Lange, the unofficial member of the Trinity, I guess it's the fourth leg of the table, if we want to call it that, a quadrangle now. Lange has stepped into the modern era where dress watch design is concerned. Sure, you can still, and right there, that's a great example of a sportier Lange dress watch. You can still get a gold, yellow gold, silver dial Lange one today, but one can argue that Lange helped to forge the modern era of aggressive dress watches with the original 2009 Zeitwerk. 10 years later, the Zeitwerk date in white gold packed a 44.2mm case, purposefully large for the machine within, massive wrist presence, huge mechanical complexity, and attitude to rival any 44mm or even 50mm Rolex Sea Dweller. Compared to this, even Lange's own Odysseus sports watch looks a bit bashful and undersized by comparison. And this thing is big without being brash in the bad way, if you know what I mean. This thing just has panache. And existing model lines, such as the Dotograph, have gained sportier variants, such as this luminous Dotograph Lumen. I mean, let's face it, when you've got a flyback chrono that's loomed like that with a smoke sapphire dial and a tachymeter scale, that is verging on sports watch territory. There's no particular occasion that grants an owner permission to wear this watch in its native context. That context is now everyday life in general. Wear it all the time. Viewers chats number 2. Matt F. and his cool Zenith Dayfi Night Surfer enjoy a colossal croissant pastry at the cafe. That looks really good. Wasim R. flies in style with his Casio G-Shock GW5000U to avoid European watch thieves he may greet along the way. Nicholas W. and his Grand Seiko White Birch ride in his incredible 500,000-mile Honda. You know, they say they don't build them like they used to, and I agree. In the past, cars didn't last 500,000 miles. Well done. Assad takes the night shift at the hospital with his Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean GMT, well loomed, I must say, and Caleb B and his Zin Easy M3 overlook the LA skyline at sunset from Debs Park. Looking good. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the 1916company.com to see your machine on my screen. We got Jim Millett encouraging people to hit the like button, which I endorse. We're up to 328 concurrent viewers. I'm happy. Sid's happy. We should all be happy. Let's see if we can make that 400. All you've got to do is keep me streaming, and you make my week. Dr. Stu saying Vacheron Constantin is one of the most beautiful dress watches available, period. I like where you're going with that. It might pop up later in the show. We got Ruggiero. Can one live with a regulator as a daily dress watch? I've been lusting after the Dornbliss. Of course you can. Many can and many have. Buy the one you like best. The Ghost of Yiddish Gambino. IWC Portuguese Perpetual Calendars in precious metal, a beastly dress watch in all the best ways. Just like the Zeitwerk while being nothing like a Zeitwerk. And you're not wrong right there. We got Smoko saying, I put my money towards Habring Squared and Dornblith for dressy watches. Not that there aren't 100 others out there that I wouldn't love either. That's a good point right there. We got Abdul saying, Saxonia Starry Sky is one of my favorites. Ruggiero again, Breguet 5177 Gronefeld is a magnificent and restrained dress watch, and I could not agree more. That's one of those watches from one of those brands that we just kind of bury. Breguet might be the story of the next couple of years. And, you know, if it happens, it's not going to be because of Swatch Group advertising. It's going to be because of us, the fans, and the online watch community. If Breguet happens, we'll be the ones that make it happen. Okay, dress watches, they're not frumpy anymore. It's worth taking a moment to reflect on how we, the collectors, have changed since the traditional 80s and 1990s. Back then, people saw whatever was mainstream at their local dealer showrooms, whatever was on the wrist of co-workers, and on less common occasions, whatever was featured in the specialist magazines, if you could even find the watch magazines back then. Today, the crush of online resources and media coverage produces 12-year-olds who know more about watches today and more about watchmaking in general than the people who bid in person at major auctions back in the 1980s. And I'm not lying. Kids today can tell you how many steel Patek 1463s were made, all versions of the Rolex Red Submariner and Red Sea Dweller dials, and what serial numbers correspond to them. They can tell you how Thomas Earnshaw made the chronometer detent escapement practical in the late 18th century. And they can do all this without batting an eye because it's all available online. My point in all the foregoing is to emphasize that people entering the hobby now have far more exposure to options and variety before they ever make a purchase. Simply buying a GMT Master 2 because it's what you saw at work isn't the rule anymore, guys, and it hasn't been for a while. All of this leads to buyers who are more likely than in the past to consider dress watches equally alongside sporting models. Online, Google does not discriminate. You can find an awful lot of both. So, there's also an attitude change, and this is where I have to emphasize some collectors no longer view the traditional dress watch as a situational option. Maybe you would consider a 1980s Patek 3919 with its tiny size and ultra-formal style a black tie watch or a situational option, but increasingly, many collectors, even of stuff like this, reject that idea. Social media is not the real world, and that's just a fact. That's my social media. Does your life look like that? Jeff S., don't answer. Everyone else? Probably not. Here's the thing. There is something to the mounting online community evidence that people are wearing hardcore dress watches far beyond their ostensible purpose. I've always described the notion that when talking about who made who, AC/DC style, it's the man or the woman who makes the watch and not the other way around. If you wear it with confidence, you can get away with anything. These days, you can casually wear a $500,000 Greubel Forsey Nano Foutrion EWT at a bar, a horror movie, good one by the way, or an F1 race. And there's no reason why you wouldn't. Why not? I think this trend started with influential collectors and celebrities. If I had to trace it, influential collectors and celebrities who have very public personas, wearing elite vintage models in casual life, that is with the t-shirt, with a polo shirt, with shorts, out on the beach. And dress watches are a major component of the vintage scene, and that's how this began. And if they can do it, why not me? A valid conclusion that many have reached. So, when somebody goes to see his kid's football game, or even better, a metal concert, he can absolutely wear a heavy metal platinum Vacheron Constantin chronograph, because why not? These days, denim and leather goes well with platinum. It's the man that makes the watch, not the other way around. Right there. Okay. Jeff S. saying, good luck having your insurance cover your $500,000 watch in an F1 event. I think some F1 drivers have learned that the hard way out in the parking lot, haven't they, recently? All I can say is have an entourage. There's strength in numbers. If you're wearing expensive stuff out in public, don't do it alone. What else is going on? Well, let's consider this. Accessories are inherently more versatile than staples like shirts, pants, and shoes. You can't wear an aqualung in the real world without looking weird, but you can wear a dive watch without looking like a scuba diver. So I would also say in the same sense, you can rock the elegant Dutch orange Gronefeld 1941 Principia. Look at that orange dial. How sexy is that in a rose gold case? But you can rock that thing without getting as ridiculously overdressed as Holland's horological hero and scientist Christian Huygens right there. You can wear that watch casually. You definitely don't need to wear clothes on top of clothes and a wig on top of your hair. So, for that matter, you can wear that Dutch orange watch with too much Dutch orange if you are a member of Max Verstappen's F1 fan club. And yes, every single one of those shirts says Max on the front. You want to wear the watch there? Welcome. And it would be a memorable occasion. Think about it from an experience standpoint. When I talk about memorable occasions, which watch will mean more to you in the long term? A rarely used delicacy pulled out for pageants of suffocating formality, or a watch worn on days that range from wild to mild and everything in between? It's going to be the watch you wear more often. Build memories around that dress watch. As newcomers to the hobby, especially younger people, increasingly view luxury watches through the lens of experiences rather than purchases. We'll see more dress watches worn for general enjoyment so you can build experiences and memories around those watches and appreciate them more and find greater satisfaction. Jumping into the box, guys, we're at 341. Stay with me. Let me get that to 400 concurrent. Just leave me streaming. Mute me. Go check something else out. Go to the microwave. Go to the kitchen. Check out one of the other YouTube creators. Even check out Andrew Morgan. I don't care. Go out and take a look at some of those other YouTubers and Instagrammers and social media guys. Check out Archie. Check out, I don't know, Nico. Go check out, Baldessar and all those dudes, Kevin O'Leary. But keep me streaming. That's the key. Help me make those numbers, because I don't get the views they do. What else is going on here? David Lincoln. There is a Gruner Manual 1 on Chrono 24 right now. Probably many more to follow. Barry's saying, my go-to dress watch is Cartier Santos Dumont Skeleton Micro Rotor. An interesting choice, because the Santos has roots as a sports watch, and there's still some versions that are sports watches, but the Micro definitely not. What else is going on here? We have Tobister asking, why is no one talking about the new Tag F1 Chrono? It's pretty cool. Horses for Courses, that's another show and another night and another topic. And what else? It's funny. We were talking about the book Deadbeat Seconds. I previewed it on my podcast with Armand and with Shelby, the author, about a week ago. And we were talking about how we would cast the book if we were actually going to cast the roles from the book as actual actors, and we cast everyone as actual actors who have a reputation and a resume, and I recommended that the villain be Teddy Baldessar. I think that was probably the best suggestion. What else is going on here? All right, guys, stay with me now. We're on our way to 350. This is going to happen. Viewers chats number 3. Paul F. of Switzerland greets our audience with his Arnold & Son Perpetual Moon. Abdul R. of Germany, he is in the chat box. Now he's on your screen. A very cool Daylum, one of the best I've seen, with his Tissot Sideral S. Nathaniel K. of South Florida, longtime friend and supporter, rocks the full gold Cartier Santos, which really does split the difference between its dress watch and sports watch nature. Robert R. times his snow shoveling and snow blowing with the latest Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch. Dan R. greets us with the rarely seen Breitling Premier B15 Duograph, that's the split, at St. Andrews in Scotland. And guys, it could be yours on my screen. So, this is your time to be seen. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com. We got Loy P, an underrated dress watch I've been looking at is the Arnold & Son Nebula 38. True. Smaller watches, the best move Arnold & Son has made since La Jouperet acquired the brand. Everyone loves them, but too many of them were too big. They're fixing that. Moto Gunner saying Teddy would make a killer villain. Yeah, because in the course of the book, he goes from being this geeky tech guy to like a supervillain, and I kind of feel like Teddy could follow that character arc. He starts off innocent enough, but by the end, you know, supervillain. A monster in the making. And what else is going on here? And as we all know, the scariest monsters are the ones you don't see coming. What else is going on here? We have BNS, without names, someone clicked do not recommend for that guy's channel. No comment. Enrique Casiano saying the duograph is beautiful. And then we've got Rich Mitch saying, I've been waiting 6 months for DJ36. How much longer, Tim? Hopefully not much longer. What have we got now? We're almost at 360. Dress watches aren't frumpy anymore. Part 3, independent brands. Now this is where things get really interesting because they can push the limits of what's considered a dress watch, but they've also helped to popularize and repopularize very traditional, elegant dress watches. So independent brands have had a huge impact on the resurgence of traditionally elegant dress watches. F.P. Journe built his name almost exclusively on dress watches. There's a special Chronomet Optimum that was made for the Prince Albert of Monaco Foundation, Singaporean inspired. You can see the inspiration, but it's a dress watch. And that's the kind of thing that made Journe famous. There was the Tourbillon Remontoire of 1999, the Chronomet Resonance of 2000, and the still rabidly sought Chronomet Bleu that came out in 2009 and hasn't aged a day. People are obsessed with these watches and can wait years to get them. While Journe offers sports watches, it's true, though, that the first, most prolific, and still most in-demand Journe watches are the dress models. Others trying to emulate Journe's success have followed this pattern and this path. The hottest young watchmaker to arrive on the scene in recent years, Recep Rezepi, was an actual Montre-Journe watchmaker working for FP before starting his Acrivia outfit, so he learned from the best. That changed but here's the thing, though. This is important, and people forget. That was in 2012. Acrivia's early large format watches and sportier models were what he wanted to make and what he thought was cool. But they weren't hot items or universally acclaimed at the time. That only changed with the 2018 Chronomètre Contemporain, which was smaller, less complicated, and more traditional. Clients asked for something that was like basically a young person's Philippe Dufour simplicity, and the CC was the immediate result and a sensation. So, had this watch launched in the 2000s when indie brands were still in their infancy and huge cases were preferred, we might only remember it as a historical footnote. But in today's environment that rewards dress watch excellence, the Chronomètre Contemporain is a sensation and a phenom. Everyone knows this watch, even if almost no one can have it. Crucially, new arrivals like Simone Brett, Sylvain Pinot, and Raoul Pages have focused on dress watches immediately upon hitting the market, and they've found immediate acceptance and waiting lists. This is a proof of a sea change. None of these people had to hawk integrated bracelet sports watches or rotating bezel divers or pilot's watches to make the sale and build their legend. All of them started with dress watches, and really, I think guys like Philippe Dufour and Kari Voutilainen and F.P. Journe and Roger Dubuis back in the day helped to pave the way. I think they helped to spark the dress watch resurgence, especially where indies are concerned. Now, Greubel Forsey doesn't pull any punches where size, complexity, decoration, and cost are concerned. The company built dress watches, though, exclusively from 2004 through the 2019 arrival of its very first sports models. Among boutique independents, I would say none surprised more or seemed to risk its standing more than this one. By scaling up sales and focusing on sports watches, it took them away from what made them so special and regarded. But rather than allowing its identity to be subsumed by lower spec sports models made in relative volumes, brand founders Robert Greubel and Stephen Forsey dramatically regained full control of the company's shares and governance in just the last year. Focus returns to no-compromise dress watches, like the Handmade 2 that just came out, and the sensational Nano Foudroyant EWT. At least from where I stand in the industry, this change was welcomed among collectors and professionals. I haven't heard anyone claim to be upset that Greubel Forsey has refocused on fewer, better, and dress watches. This is right for our times, and it's almost like tastes came back to where Greubel Forsey started, a no-compromise formal piece, priced to the moon. As with major brands, like Patek and AP that we described earlier, independents also have an impact on changing perception of what a dress watch could be. This is where we start to bend the definitions and straddle two genres, but consider my house brand, De Bethune, which as you all know, we've owned since 2021. As wild as this watch looks, it's not marketed as a sports watch. At De Bethune, that's considered a dress watch. The vast majority of the company's production from 2002 to date has consisted of watches that Denis Flageolet considers to be a dress watch. And even today, the company is recommitted to its focus on this type of watch. Elaborate haute de gamme dress watches, and I've seen the 2025 novelties, and if you're waiting for an integrated bracelet sports watch or some sort of 46mm pilot's watch, not coming. But they've recommitted to high-end, super high-spec dress watches in an avant-garde style. Consider this from 2021, the titanium DB25 QP. This is a sporty dress watch, not a dressy sports watch. And its counterparts in gold and platinum look and work exactly the same, and they are clearly dress watches. Consider the DB28, De Bethune's core model. Recent developments have been geared towards making the watch thinner, as with the 2020 XP series, and smaller, as with the recent 38.7mm XS series. Smaller and thinner are the goals of dress watch designers. You can be spectacular and elegant at the same time, and this company does. Jumping into the box right here, we got Rick on Watches saying, I love Greubel Forsey. We got question, what is the VC56, sports, dress, or hybrid? In steel, hybrid. In precious metal, dress. Right here, we have Amit saying LUC Chopard, also awesome. You're not wrong. Claudio joining in. Welcome, Claudio. Justin D saying Geo makes some great sporty dress watches, and you're not wrong. And then Tom H. Tim, thoughts on Burneron? Interesting, but I feel maybe a little bit too heavy-handed in borrowing from others, particularly a little bit of Cartier crash DNA, especially on their initial models. But fun watches, no doubt, fun watches. Hard to read in some cases, so if that's a priority, maybe look elsewhere. What else going on? Anthony Rice, this is an interesting point. Who decides how history categorizes a style or watch, the manufacturer or the consumer? I would argue that initially the manufacturer, in the medium run the consumer, and in the long term the historian, or the guy cataloging the auctions. We're almost up to 360, guys. Get me up to 360 concurrent viewers and I think we'll be happy here. So, now, increasingly, collectors are recognizing that dress watches can look like this, or this one, or that one. All of those are dress watches, even if the style is light years advanced beyond what would have been considered a dress watch in the mid-90s. This is the final element of expanding the acceptance of dress watches, redefining what a dress watch can be. And instead of pigeonholing the oldest category of wristwatch, which is what a dress watch is, doesn't it make more sense to wear them all the time you're not diving on a sunken ship, flying a fighter jet, driving a race car, or working on a particle accelerator? In retrospect, should the sports or the tool watch be the one that comes out on rare occasions and not the opposite? Guys, wrist shots number 4. We have Max Moel is justifiably proud of his Raymond Weil Year of the Serpent Millésime Burgundy alongside his BMW X6. We have Yao V greeting us from Portugal with his family heirloom Omega Seamaster Cosmic. Gus G of Georgia, he's in the box now, he's on your screen. Keeps it all in good taste with his bone-in ribeye steak and Christopher Ward 12. Looking good. Warren P gives us Dialoom at its best from a brand known for it on his Panerai Rajamir. Gary S and his white ceramic dial Speedmaster get a makeover thanks to a daring new strap. Henry K takes us home with his Omega Speedmaster Pro and 1998 Acura Integra Type R. I don't know which one is more collectible. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your analog on my digital. Thanks to one and all in the box. We did wind up hitting 366 thanks to you. Thanks to Sid for making it happen. And until next week, time out.